welcome to Goal Power. I'm Nikki and this is a series all about how I bullet journal, set goals and generally organise my life here in northwest London. You can find me on Instagram at hippie_Nikki, and if you're looking for knitting and crochet content you will find that in my bi-weekly podcast Tea and Possibilities, which you will also find on this channel. Now at this point I've produced a few videos about my bullet journal, but I haven't actually given you the traditional YouTube walkthrough, so that's what I wanted to do today. I have been bullet journaling since about 2016, which is around the time I started this podcast, and I've been bullet journaling on and off throughout that time. I am on about my third bullet journal, and there are various reasons for that, and I will be doing an evolution of how I bullet journal very soon. But right now I feel that the bullet journal setup I have at the moment is the best I've ever had. It's such a great space for me to spend time. I really like sitting down with it in the evenings and in the mornings and throughout the day and just checking in. I use it to plan my days, plan ahead, plan everything, and I also use it slightly as a journal. So throughout this video, just as a heads up, there will be post-its and blurs, if I can make the blur function work, and various bits of paper covering up certain parts of my bullet journal. I don't want this to take away from demonstrating how I use it, but because my bullet journal is so personal to me, there's a lot in there that I don't quite want to share on the interwebs. So I hope you will forgive me for some of the creative use of post-its. Like most bullet journalers, I use a Leuchtturm hardback notebook. It's A5 size, and again, like most bullet journalers, I use the dotted grid paper. That is my personal preference. It allows me to draw grids, draw tables, space things out quite nicely, write in straight lines without the rigidity of having a lined journal. I also think the paper in here is really nice. I do use inky coloured pens, so it is quite nice to have paper that doesn't bleed through too much. So let's take a look inside. The Leuchtturm also has the added benefit of having a table of contents already included at the front of the journal. Bullet journals rely heavily on this index system. I love it. I didn't really understand the necessity for it until I got into this, my third journal, so I'm absolutely in love with it now. First up, as with all of my bullet journals, I kick off with a year in pixels. The first page is a single page, not a double page spread, and it just feels like a really nice way to start my bullet journal. A lot of bullet journalers use this. I wish I knew who kicked it off. If you do know, please tell me and I will put a note in the description box below. I love this. It is something I've utilised in other ways, and I think I will always have one in my bullet journal. Next up, we have my financial tracker. I've mentioned before that I am saving to get a mortgage, and I have money in various savings accounts to this end. Here I have tracked each savings account, and my hope is to get the lines either remaining steady or moving progressively upwards. The red line is actually my credit card, so obviously I want to keep that as low as possible. Next up was a quick Christmas spread. I don't really go too hard on my Christmas planning. I literally just have a table here with a name, what I thought to get them, what my budget was, what I actually spent, and then I had a little tick box for when I bought it and when I wrapped it. And then of course my Christmas card list. Next up is a super early incarnation of my period tracker. I did do a really deep dive into how I'm tracking my periods in my bullet journal, so I will link below if you'd like to know a bit more about that. Next up is the months ahead. Now, the bullet journal method has you writing out just the month you're in, but I like to have both of them to hand. So when I started this bullet journal, it was, I think, midway through November 2019. So I wanted to have November down and I wanted to have December down as well, because I wanted to be able to plan ahead. I don't like not having an overview for the month ahead, so I always draw out 2 months at a time. And there you go. That is my first traditional bullet journaling pages. I work really, really simply. I just jot down the day and the date. I make a note with a circle about any things I need to do, any appointments I have, and then I use the squares to do my to-do lists for the day. Traditional bullet journaling uses bullet points, and that is something I keep meaning to try, but I think I'm just so in the habit of using the squares. It's not something I've got the hang of yet. So as you can see, that was several pages of just pure bullet journaling. Not necessarily every day, but the great thing about the bullet journal is if you take a day, a week, a month off, you can just start again and it really doesn't matter. So again, I got into January and I was ready to write down January and February. I actually started this in mid-December so that I could start planning for January, but I wrote out February as well, because why not? I realised that I needed a bit more of an overview. I do use Google Calendar on my phone for things that are quite far in advance, and I realised I wanted something in my bullet journal as well. So I simply broke a double-page spread down into 12 boxes and jotted down anything and everything. So everything from birthdays to bank holidays to events that I've got coming up. Everything is down here. When I originally filled them in, they were in date order. So for example, if there were several birthdays that month, I put them in the correct order. However, when you add things, it means they're not necessarily in the same order. So I just had to let that go a little bit. Next up is my financial daily tracker. This is heavily inspired by the year in pixels, and it's just where I jot down every day how much money I've spent that day according to my color-coded key just here. I talk about this in a little bit more depth in my daily trackers video, so I will link that below if you want to find out more. Over here was my 2020 challenge. I wanted to do a monthly 10-mile run. 10 miles is really my happy place. I love running 10 miles. Love is probably a strong word, but hopefully you runners know what I mean. So I broke my page down into the 12 months. As you can see, I just filled out the month rather than the date. And then I broke it down into 4 columns. So I've got the date, and I will fill in exactly what date I do it when I do it, how I ran it. So I'm a bit of a wussy runner, and when it's cold, I will take to the treadmill, and it's only in the warmer months that you will see these being filled out with actual routes. I jot down the time it took me and any notes. As you can see, March was cancelled due to the lockdown occurring for the coronavirus. I technically could have gone out for a run, as you are allowed out for exercise, but given that I'm just under 2 hours for my 10 miles, that didn't seem like a really good idea for me. I'm hoping to pick up again maybe in, if not May, maybe in June, and get the rest of the year filled out. Again, when it comes to these sorts of goals, I'm not beating myself up about it. I'm not trying to find a way around the lockdown that allows me to do the 10 miles. It's not that important. There will be time when I can come back to this, and I'm looking forward to filling it in when I can. Next up, we have more bullet journal pages, and I also started journaling quite a lot in here, so we're gonna flick through them fairly quickly. Here we are, March and April. As I said before, double page spread. I put a little tab here just because it makes my life easier to find it when I need to flick to it. And here we are, up to my quarantine tracker, which you will have seen in previous videos. If you want to know more about it, I will link below. Here is my updated and current period tracker. Again, there will be a deep dive link below if you are interested. And there we are. That brings me completely up to date. I am 85 pages into my bullet journal, and the bulk of it has been actual bullet journaling. One thing I do slightly different to the traditional method is that I do have a weekly list. So at the top of the list, I will start with actual dates and appointments that I have. So for example, here, the reminder was that Monday was Easter Monday. Usually this is a bit more busy, whether it's dental or GP appointments or meeting my friends or birthdays, they all go up here. And then below that, I have a list of things that I want to do that week. I usually do this on a Sunday at some point, usually in the evening, and it's just a brain dump of things I want to get done that week, and then I can populate my lists from there. As you can see, this particular week was super busy, so even though I did a brain dump on the Monday, I didn't really have any capacity to jot anything down until the Friday, which is a real shame. Today is Sunday, I haven't done anything. But that is the beauty of the bullet journal system. Had this been a traditional pre-printed planner, I would have this down one side and then several pages blank before we got to Friday, maybe down here somewhere. And I would have felt bad about that. I would have felt guilty about the waste of paper, that there was no productivity. But I don't use this for work. This is purely my personal life, my creativity planner, my general keeping on top of my life outside of work planner. So I'm not going to feel guilty because I know I had a very busy week at work, and there is no blank page to make me feel guilty. I will probably fill in this space with some journaling and some note taking, start my next weekly list here, and then go back to bullet journaling here. There is absolutely no guilt in this system, which I really enjoy. I can't wait to share with you the evolution of my bullet journal. I'm really happy with this one, and I cannot wait to show you how it evolved from previous planners. Thank you so much for spending some time with me this week. I hope that was interesting. I'm really excited now to work on a video about how I evolved to my current bullet journal from my very first bullet journal. And I have to say a big thank you to Ryder Carroll for inventing the bullet journal system to begin with, and then writing the bullet journal book, because that was a real game changer for me, huge. Thank you again. I hope that you are happy and well and staying safe, and I will see you very soon for another Gold Power video. Take care. Bye.